The MTRC has announced a salary adjustment for its staff, with most non-managerial staff receiving a pay rise of 1.6% to 3.84% effective April 1st. The MTRC said after considering factors such as company performance and market environment, it decided to increase the basic salary of non-managerial staff this year. The specific increase will be determined based on work performance, and high-performing employees will also receive a one-off bonus equivalent to 1.4 to 2.07 months' salary. The U.S. military has acknowledged one of its aircraft taking part in the military operation against Iran has crashed in Iraq and said it was not brought down by hostile fire or friendly fire. An Iran-backed armed resistance group in Iraq claimed responsibility for the attack. Danny Jo has the story.
A U.S. Air Force KC-135 stratotanker, a refueling aircraft, went down in western Iraq at approximately 2 p.m. on Thursday, the U.S. Central Command said in a statement, adding the incident occurred in friendly airspace during Operation Epic Fury and rescue efforts are ongoing. The CENTCOM said 2 aircraft were involved in the incident and that the second landed safely. Meanwhile, the Islamic resistance group in Iraq claimed they shot down the U.S. military refueling plane in defense of their country's sovereignty and airspace. A spokesperson for the Iranian armed forces said the air defense systems in western Iraq successfully targeted the KC-135 aircraft, and all 6 crew members on board were killed. Media reports say this is the 4th publicly acknowledged aircraft crash as part of the U.S.'s military campaign against Iran. Danny Jo, TVB News.
Iran's Supreme Leader Ayatollah Mojtaba Khamenei said that Iran will use the closure of the Strait of Hormuz as leverage against the United States and Israel. This as Israel's military said it had begun another wave of strikes on Lebanon's capital, saying it was targeting Hezbollah sites. Meanwhile, United Nations resident and humanitarian coordinator for Lebanon warned that the country is facing a perfect storm as conflict, displacement, and dwindling humanitarian resources converge. Tracy Furness again.
In a statement read by a state TV news anchor, Ayatollah Mojtaba Khamenei said Iran would keep up attacks on its neighbors with U.S. military facilities and use the effective closure of the strategic Strait of Hormuz as leverage against the U.S. and Israel. In his first statement on the war, he said Iran had no choice but to continue strikes around the Gulf, despite wanting to maintain friendly relations. The Iranian leader also called on Gulf states to close down U.S. bases, saying U.S. promised protection is no more than a lie. This as Israel's military began another wave of strikes on Lebanon's capital Thursday night, targeting Hezbollah sites. A Hezbollah official said that a building in the Zokak el-Blat neighborhood of Beirut that Israel alleged was a branch of Hezbollah's financial arm and which was damaged in Israel's airstrikes had been closed for 2 weeks and was inactive. Israel has been targeting Hezbollah's financial unit, which offers microloans and transfer funds within the group. Earlier, the Israeli military struck a building in a busy residential and commercial district of central Beirut, close to Lebanon's parliament, United Nations offices and international embassies. The strike came soon after an Israeli Arabic language spokesperson issued a warning on X for residents to evacuate 300 meters away from the building, which it said was near a Hezbollah target. Authorities in Lebanon say 800,000 so far have been forced from their homes as Israel's military destroys buildings linked to Iran-backed Hezbollah militants.
We have 700,000 people who have self-registered now through the Ministry of Social Affairs as displaced in Lebanon, and this is in the course of just over 8-9 days. We have about 120,000 that are in collective shelters at this time.
Tracy Furness, TVB News.
Welcome back. The Ministry of Commerce in Beijing announced that Vice Premier He Lifeng will travel to Paris tomorrow to hold a new round of economic and trade talks with the United States. Danny Jo reports.
A spokesperson for the ministry confirmed that the Chinese delegation headed by Vice Premier He Lifeng would meet with the U.S. side from March the 14th to 17th and engage in negotiations on issues of mutual concern. U.S. Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent said in a statement Thursday that their trade and economic dialogue is moving forward thanks to the bonds of mutual respect between U.S. President Donald Trump and President Xi Jinping. American officials reportedly said it is hoped that China will pledge to make bigger purchases of U.S. agricultural and energy products, including soybeans and Boeing jets. U.S. Trade Representative Jamieson Greer indicated that they need to talk with China to build a more balanced trading system to further cut the U.S.'s deficit. The talks are widely seen as preparatory work for Trump's prospective state visit to China, which the White House says will last from March the 31st to April the 2nd. Beijing has not confirmed the visit. Danny Zhou, TVB News.
In the U.S., an attacker armed with a rifle was killed after ramming his vehicle into one of the largest Reform synagogues in Michigan. The FBI called the incident a targeted act of violence against the Jewish community. Daniel Rao tells us more.
The attacker has been identified as Ayman Mohammed Ghazali, a 41-year-old naturalized U.S. citizen born in Lebanon. Ghazali came to the U.S. in 2011 on an immediate relative visa as the spouse of a U.S. citizen and was granted U.S. citizenship in 2016. Investigators have, however, not yet determined his motive. In the suburban Detroit township of West Bloomfield, authorities credited quick action by well-trained synagogue security personnel for preventing any loss of life at Temple Israel and its daycare center, other than that of the attacker. One security officer was hit by the vehicle and knocked unconscious, but did not suffer life-threatening injuries. West Bloomfield police said Temple security officers engaged the individual and neutralized the threat. They said he was found dead inside his vehicle. All 140 children were safely evacuated from the preschool and accounted for. 30 law enforcement officers were taken to hospital suffering from inhalation of smoke that filled the synagogue from a fire of undetermined origin that erupted when the suspect's truck plowed into the building. The FBI is now leading an investigation into the attack. Jennifer Runyon, the special agent in charge of the FBI's Detroit field office, called the incident a targeted act of violence against the Jewish community.
This is a deeply disturbing and tragic incident, and our deepest sympathies are with the victims, their family, and the entire Jewish community. The FBI is here working with our state, local, and federal partners to investigate this incident, and I can confirm that we are leading the investigation right now as a targeted act of violence against the Jewish community.
Anti-Semitic incidents have spiked in recent years in the U.S., with anti-Jewish incidents counting for nearly two-thirds of 5,300-plus religiously motivated hate crimes since February 2024, according to FBI data. Daryl, TV News.
Back locally, the government has recorded 66 reports of suspected serious child abuse involving some 70 children since the mandatory reporting of child abuse ordinance came into effect on January 20th this year. Secretary for Labor and Welfare Chris Sun said most of the cases involved children suffering from physical abuse, with most of those who reported the crimes coming from the social welfare, medical, and education sectors. Sun noted there hasn't been a surge in cases as initially expected since the implementation of the ordinance. Some lawmakers suggested that authorities should also introduce measures to deter child abuse. There has been reports of cases of excessive borrowing by some foreign domestic helpers over the years. The government has now strengthened regulations on unsecured personal loans for low-income individuals from August this year. For those earning $6,000 or less per month, the monthly repayment as a percentage of income cannot exceed 35%, and the repayment period cannot exceed the remaining years of the employment contract. For those earning between $6,001 and $12,000 per month, the limit is 40%. Based on the current minimum wage of $5,100 per month, for foreign domestic helpers, a maximum loan amount for a 2-year contract will be approximately $42,000. Tsinghua Group of Hospitals and the University of Hong Kong have conducted a survey on carers of mental health patients. The survey found that more than 66% of the carers are under severe burden. Mo Sinai reports.
Ting is a carer of a daughter who suffers from depression and eating disorders. Victor, once a mental health patient, now takes care of his mother who is depressed. Speaking at a press conference on Friday, the two shared the stress level they have been facing as carers of mental health patients, such as losing sleep at night. But their cases are just the tip of the iceberg. Between May and August, Donghua Group of Hospitals and University of Hong Kong conducted an online survey focusing on the needs and experience of mental illness patients' carers. The survey shows that more than 60% of the 885 carers surveyed suffer from a severe amount of stress. About 60% appear to have depression at mild level or above. When it comes to the time spent on caregiving, about 17% said 40 hours or more.
The overall prevalence of Hong Kong people with mental illnesses is already very high. And in addition to the role of being a caregiver, in addition to the daily stress and the busy life of Hong Kong people, I would suspect that those factors actually contribute to the higher prevalence of the caregiver burden in Hong Kong than the other places.
Asked about their mental health status, 13.2% of caregivers said they had occasionally thought about death or self-harm, while 10.5% said the idea of harming or killing the patients had lasted for a few days. While the team thinks society has shown more empathy toward the mental health patients and carers, they say people need to keep educating themselves on the subject.
Compared with the 10 years ago, there's a great improvement already. But it is a fact that when there are some bad news about the mental ill people, people may have some negative thoughts on them. So that we have to keep promote and educate the public.
The research team hopes societies can enhance carer supportive measures in 5 aspects, including the establishment of a local system to identify individuals who have self-harm intentions or pose risks to others. Mamusnai, TVB News.
And that's the news. Thanks for watching.